Okay, if you have ever wanted to do your 3D art, like level block out level art in Maya, and then bring it into Unreal, but still have Unreal's kind of full instance workflow, and still be able to use packed level actors, so you can easily edit things in Unreal, but not have to manually snap things together in Unreal, which is a lot slower. I'll show you how you can do that. So the result is we'll end up with this. This is just kind of like a test here, but you can see it's a building made of many small blocks, and they're snapped together. But I didn't have to do all that here in Unreal, and it's packaged as a packed level actor, which you can edit. So you can go in here and move things around, add new things to it, and because it's also saved as a blueprint, you can add logic or whatever you want to it. So you can this is the blueprint for that guy. If you want to add whatever you want to it, you can add some text here, and then on construction we'll say building. Now you can see it says building. So yeah, you can add whatever you want there, right? Because it's a blueprint. Okay, so so this is kind of the best of both worlds. So it starts in Maya. The first thing you want to do is, well, there's a few prerequisites. You want to set up a couple folders because it's a little organizationally, it's a little kind of intensive, and so if you aren't organized, it'll get confusing fast. So set up a folder for your mod kit. These individual little stack meshes that you're going to build things from. Set up a folder for that. Here I've got mine called Temple Kit, and then set up a folder for your pre-made buildings that you're going to make in Maya. Mine is called prefabs. And then also set up a temporary folder where you're going to import things into. I'll tell you the reason for that in a minute. So you want those three folders for organization. So in Maya you'll make your kit. So this kit is just a few things here. So these top pieces and then a block. So set up the pivots on each of them to where you want, and then send them all to the origin. Make sure the transforms are frozen, and if they're getting imported to Unreal and like the pivot's off or something, just make sure they're not like in a group or something like that. So you can just select those all together and then do export selection, and you can export them just as one piece, or you can do them separately. Either way works, because you can combine or uncombine them in Unreal when you import them. Preserve instances. For this, it doesn't matter, it can be on or off, but be aware of that. That's going to be important the next time we export. But just export as usual, all your just typical settings for exporting any kind of ordinary 3D asset. And then when you import here into Unreal, you'll import them into your ModKit folder, and so you can just drag and drop into here, and it's going to give you your import settings, and you can just do all of the defaults. The only thing to be aware of is make sure that transform vertex to absolute under the advanced settings is set to false. If you're at the origin, it shouldn't matter, but if you're getting some kind of funky translations, just make sure that's off. Okay, so now you got your ModKit parts here in Unreal, in Unreal, and you can just move them to the origin just to verify everything's kosher. Make sure that they're in the same location as in Maya. One thing you might want to do in Maya is go to the preferences and set your up axis to Z, just so it's the same between both programs, so you don't have to do any figuring out why the rotation's flipped between one and the other. And that's it for getting your modular kit pieces in there. Now you successfully have your modular kit pieces in Unreal. Now, if you weren't doing things in Maya, this is where you would use Unreal's tools and start manually one by one doing all these things, which is a pain to do in Unreal if you're familiar with the 3D application. So we'll do it in Maya. So what you can do is I set up my duplicate special to where it creates an instance, and then I also bound my duplicate special to Control D. So rather than Control D being the ordinary duplicate, I set Control D to the duplicate special. So now you can just grab this duplicate special, making an instance. And if you want to confirm it's an instance, just do a component selection. You'll see when I select the component of this, it's editing all the instances. And so now you can just use Maya's tools to quickly block out, do whatever you want. And so that's what I've done here. So this is just like a lot faster and easier to do in Maya. You can make one wall, then just easily duplicate instances. And, that this will take you 10 seconds to do in Maya, whereas in Unreal it'll take you like 10 minutes. Okay, so so once you got that, just select them all. You'll probably want to move it to the origin. The easy way to do that is just hit Control G to group it, and then just send that group to the origin. This way in Unreal, this will be your pivot point, and you can place the whole building easily. So once again, with that selected, the group selected, you do export selection. This time, make sure preserve instances are turned on, and then export it. So that's the building test. And just move that back on the way. Okay, so now in Unreal, we'll want to import that building that we set up in Maya. So you go to, you won't import it here into the content browser by drag and drop like usual. What you go to is go to File, Import into Level. Go to that folder where you exported it. And now what you want to do is bring it here to this folder you set up. So it's probably better to have that as a top level folder so you don't have to search for it every time. But so I just make it pink so it's easy to spot. But this is kind of like your temporary staging ground where you're going to bring things into. All the default settings should work, so you can see how this works. Here it's saying, okay, this is all the stuff that we exported, right? However, these are all instances, and you'll see the actual static meshes is just these three, right? So that's our mod kit. Now, with this tool here in Unreal, it doesn't seem like there's any way to point this to like a static mesh that's already in the project. So what we have to do is basically import this and then replace them manually. All your default settings should be fine. Just make sure that none of these things that are going to affect the pivot are messed with. Oh, by default this might be on something else. Make sure the hierarchy type is create level actor, so that's going to bring it into the level and not add anything to your content browser. Okay, so now here's that thing. You can see it set up some default materials, and it also brought in the static meshes, but we want to replace these with the same kit, right? That way if we're iterating, we have other buildings that we're working on, they're all referencing the same static meshes. So there's a few ways you can do this. You can just delete these and then use the replace thing. If in order for that replace to come up, first you have to save these so that Unreal like indexes them or whatever it does. Now if you delete, you can go to here and replace there. So I'll do that with one of them. So you see now that's our static mesh from the our kit. Let me just clean up those redirectors. Okay, and now another way you can do it is by first turning this into a packed level actor and then replacing them manually. So what you can do is just select everything there. And I suggest doing this like kind of in an empty scene, because if you have a scene that has other stuff in the outliner, sometimes the it'll mash them together, like it does it alphabetically, and there's no way to reorganize it. So some of these things might be mixed with other things in your scene. So I suggest do this in a clean, empty scene. And then you can right click either here or in the level and go to level, packed level actor, and I'll point this to my prefabs. So we'll call this building test. So this is going to be like the prefab, the prefab building that we can place around. It's also going to create the blueprint for it. Same place. Okay, so now let's just delete that. And now you can see, okay, here's that building that we set up in Maya. And it's all the same. It looks like, what's that? Oh, I think that's the, I might have included the original mod kit with it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's it. It snagged the, I must have had that stuff selected too. So we can just delete that out there. We don't need it. Okay, so now this is a pack level instance actor, which means it's going to kind of automatically set up the instancing for us, but it still gives us editing power. So you can, with it selected, you can click edit here, or you just hit Control E. Now we're in the editing mode, and thought I got rid of that. So let's get rid of that, and then let's replace these. So select them. Replace with our own kit. Same thing with these. So this is where having a good naming convention comes in handy. So I know if I just say Temple Kit, it's gonna pull up all these things. Because you won't remember like the exact name for everything. So as long as you have some categories that you can remember, it's easier. Okay, so now that all of those are replaced, and you have to save these things because it's like it's its own level, so you have to save it. And you can hit Control S or hit commit changes here. And so now, okay, here's this building that we set up in Maya, which was quick and easy to do. Only takes a few seconds. But we still have full editing power in Unreal, right? So if we want to punch a hole in the wall, we can just delete one of those. If we want to, crumble the wall or whatever, when we want to replace the roof with it, or if we want to add some blueprint logic, we can do that. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. So let's commit those changes. And the pivot's set up nicely so we can easily move it around, throughout the level. Okay, and the last thing to do is just go back to that temp folder, and then you can just clean up, all this extra crap that you don't need anymore. Just delete it, and there you go. Now you have a nice clean outliner. You can place entire buildings at a time and duplicate them, but you can still go and edit them. So if I want to edit this one, right, if I want to make this one slightly different than that one, I can just go to level, break. This is kind of like undoing the prefab if you're a Unity guy. And then we can make some changes to this one, right? Okay, so now this one's slightly different. And what we want to do is basically turn that back into packed level instance. So we can right click, level, packed level actor. Same thing, I'm going to put it here. We'll call this building 2 or building 1. Alt might be a better name. And it's going to create that blueprint. And there, now we have a reusable version of each. And you can do that, to infinity. Okay, I think that covers everything.